All right, so I'm making a special video here, video episode about tone in writing, and it's something I touched upon in the previous audio episode where I was talking about I wouldn't call it a breakup message, but it was kind of a let's be friends rejection kind of message that I got. And in that video or in that episode, audio only episode, I explained that I would make a follow up video on how to effectively do this using something like ChatGPT or some kind of LLM AI tool, whatever. So that's what we're doing here. And just to start off with a little context, and of course, I'll preface this by saying that, yeah, it is a bit of a personal situation, but I won't be going into any detail, any of the more emotional aspects of it. And the person who was involved in this message, I mean, there is a chance that they could be listening. I mean, they know that I have a podcast and a video series. It's possible, but not probable that they'll hear this. But I just want to say that I'm not putting any details that would identify this person, and I'm not angry. But I do think it's a really valuable lesson. It really gave me the idea that tone can often be something we understand, or we forget about when we're writing a message. I mean, I'm not even talking about in-person conversations. I'm just talking about writing here. But I think tone is something that we often forget about, and especially for you as second language learners, English learners, it's even harder. And I understand because when I was learning Japanese, it was something that I had to pay more attention to as well. So it's something that we can easily overlook, tone. And especially when we're using something like ChatGPT to help us write, yes, the grammar and vocabulary will be good, but what if the tone doesn't match the situation? And that's my point here is, and I think that's what was happening in the message that I received, was that I think the person had good intentions, and I don't think that they were trying to hurt me or make me feel bad. I don't think that at all. I know this person is a really good person, but I think the tone was very, in my opinion, the tone was very inappropriate, and the tone did hurt, even though I could empathize with the person's situation. And I know that the other person had told me before that they don't really feel confident in their writing and in their communication ability. And I've seen this many times before as well. I've been with, or I've dated, or I've had girlfriends who were not the best communicators, whether that means in person or in writing. And I'm not the best either. I should just say that. You know, I'm 41 now. I've had a lot of time to work on my communication, and I still need to do some work on it when it comes to, let's say, romantic relationships, or it could be workplace communication, it could be with friends and family, all that stuff. It's still something that I'm working on as well. But I have had girlfriends or even just dated people in the past who, when they were writing, the tone was very a big mismatch. It would feel like they were accusing me of something, or it would feel like they were very angry at me, or too neutral, or too polite, or too polished. And then when I would talk to them in person, it would turn out to just be a misunderstanding. They had one thing in mind, but it did not come out the right way in writing. Text is probably the worst example of this. It's something that we do in our first language a lot as well, not just a second language, but we may seem or come off as angry, upset, disinterested, or the opposite could be too emotional and so on. And it turns out that may not actually be our intention or our feeling when we're writing that. And the other person may receive that in a different way. I also want to say this is why I think conversations are really good for this type of thing. I know that sometimes, and the other person had mentioned as well that they didn't really feel confident speaking about these things. I think that was my impression anyway. I'm not sure if that was 100% true. But I had offered to, or I had suggested talking about this over the phone when she, again, not broke up with me because we weren't dating, but I felt like we were going in that direction. Again, that's kind of a long story, but I thought we were going into kind of a romantic direction. But and I had known this person for maybe a year, and so it had only gotten somewhat into that romantic territory, maybe only for about a month or so. But the feelings had been there for a long time. She had actually reached out to me when I was not available for dating. So it's somebody I knew for a year, and I think there was a connection there that deserved a phone call, if that makes sense. But I can also understand, and that's why I want to say I do understand that sometimes it's just people don't feel comfortable talking on the phone about these things. I can totally understand when I was younger. Sometimes I didn't really want to talk on the phone about these things either. And this person was a little bit younger than me. So again, I do understand. I want to say that like 100 times. I totally understand that the person had their reasons for only sending a message and not calling. But I think, again, this is another reason why phone calls or in person conversations or FaceTime or whatever are really valuable when there's something at stake, when there's emotions involved, when there's some type of relationship, whether that's friends, family, or possibly romantic situations, or a breakup for a real relationship, is that a lot of things can get lost in that message, right? In that tone, or a lot of misunderstanding, and a lot of times just waiting between those messages can also be very stressful. So if you send a message and then it takes a week to receive a reply, I mean, that can be so stressful. You don't know what the other person is thinking. So all of these things are part of communication. Just wanted to explain all that in the beginning. Now let's get into the actual, I guess, instructional part of this video. So what I wanted to say is this can also, well, I've already said it actually, but what I'm going to show you here can also be used for any type of relationship, as I've mentioned, or anytime there could be something sensitive, where you want to make sure you have the right tone. I also want to say not everything needs to be said, so sometimes not sending a message is okay too, especially if the messages are just going back and forth and nothing is being resolved. I've had this before too with, again, romantic relationships with ex-girlfriends who just, the conversation doesn't end. The texting or the email conversation just doesn't end. So sometimes it's okay to just stop sending a message or never send a message. That could be okay. Sometimes you don't really care, and that's okay too. So if you don't really care that much, maybe it's okay not to say anything, or it's okay to say just a little bit. You don't have to pour your heart into every message if you think it's not necessary or not authentic to you. You also have to remember that these are records. So a text message, you don't think of it as a record, an official record, but it is a record. It is in writing. An email, of course, is a record as well, especially if you send something at work. You got to be really careful. But my point is with emails and text messages is that these can be shown to other people. For example, I did send a long email to this person, and a couple long emails, and I think they were very warm and loving emails, very affectionate. I was showing appreciation for the time together. I was explaining my feelings as well, but I think they were very appropriate. I don't think that they were overwhelming or crazy, the crazy emails that sometimes people send after a heartbreak. And but I do have to keep in mind that it's possible that she shows these emails to other people. She could show it to her mother, for example, and ask for some advice, or some other people might show it to their friends and laugh. I'm not saying this person is going to do that, but my point is that when you send these messages, again, they are records. Text messages can be shared with friends. I've had to do that before. Maybe I get a weird text message and I share it with a friend. I say, hey, what do you think, right? People do that all the time. They take a screenshot or they copy it and send it to other people asking for advice. It could go on the internet. Someone might put it on social media. Who knows, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. Again, I don't think this person would ever do anything like that. If she's shared it with anyone, I'm sure it was just to get advice or something. So I felt okay with it, but I just want you to keep that in mind. I have had situations at work where emails were shared, not my own emails, but I do know where other emails were shared with other people, and that caused some problems as well. So I do just make sure that you understand that anything you send, text or email, is a record and it could be shared. And finally, people may not receive the message the way that you intend. So, and I've had this happen a lot before, where I would send something that I thought was pretty thoughtful and considerate, and the other person got very upset. And I think that's happened probably the other way around as well, where someone has sent me something that seems pretty innocuous or, pretty neutral, and I would have a big reaction. And again, this is because emotions are involved, whether that's at work, with friends or family, in romantic situations, whatever. So, as you may try as hard as possible to have the correct tone, you may craft a really beautiful email or very considerate message, and still the other person may not react the way that you want them to. And that's kind of out of your control, so you have to remember that as well. I think that was a lot of disclaimers and caveats, to kind of preface this instructional video. But I just want you to keep all of those things in mind, especially because I think my audience are English learners. It's not your native language, so you may have to be extra considerate of these things. Okay, so let's get to the actual instructional part. So I'm going to start with a sample breakup message. So let me just put something. Here's what I want to say. Okay, so what I always recommend when using ChatGPT to help you communicate is start with your own message, and then maybe get some advice after that. You could start the other way around too. You can start with a template and then work backwards, but I recommend starting with your own words first and then working from there. So here's what I want to say. I still have feelings for you, but I think the logistics, no, that sounds too cold, but I think the circumstances for us having a relationship are not good. I appreciated our time together, but I think it's best for us to move on. This isn't about you or anything that you did. I just know that this relationship won't work out, and I can't change that. I'm sorry. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. This is just an example. Okay, so let's see what it says. Okay, so the message is already quite thoughtful and emotionally clear. If you'd like, I can help you shape it slightly depending on the tone you're aiming for. Here are 3 possible versions with different tones. So this is what we're talking about, tones, right? And I might play with some more variations later. So here's gentle and warm. I still have feelings for you, and I've really valued this time we've spent together, but I've come to realize that given the circumstances, this relationship isn't something we can sustain. This isn't about anything you did, it's just something I've had to come to terms with. I wish things were different, but I know this isn't going to work in the long run, and I need to be honest about that. I'm really sorry. Okay, I think that's great. Oh, and then I should say the reason, what prompted me to write this or to make this video and last week's audio only podcast episode was that the message I got from this person who basically said that we wouldn't have a relationship or they didn't want to continue in that direction. Everything that she put in that message I thought made sense, but I felt that the tone was very neutral and polished, and it felt like an essay. And it didn't feel like her own words, or didn't feel like she was actually talking to me. And it felt like such a change from the way that we had normally communicated that I think that is what hurt me. I actually told her that I could understand that the circumstances are not good. and I could totally accept that. But I think the tone was really what threw me off. It almost made me feel like I didn't deserve, I guess, a real message, if that makes sense. And I know that it was definitely AI created, because this person had mentioned using AI before to help her write, which again is totally fine. And there was a part of the message that also was very clearly AI, but overall it felt like it was created in ChatGPT. So, and my point here is that it's okay to use ChatGPT to, I think, to create these types of messages, but I think we just have to be very careful about the tone. And I'm going to show you later. I highly recommend actually rewriting it in your own words, adding, removing, changing some things, and really trying to make it match, I think, the way that you speak to that person. Because for me, again, some people don't care, but for me, I'm quite sensitive to when somebody is sending me a message that sounds very different than the way they usually communicate. To me, it feels a little bit weird, but again, for other people, it may not matter that much. Some people that I talked to said they don't like that. They feel that it's kind of rude or disrespectful or hurtful, and other people say it doesn't matter. All they want is the information. So I think there's just a lot of things to think about. But this is just a good exercise and good practice. Let's go to calm and direct. So I want to be honest with you. I still care about you, but I don't think the circumstances are right for us to be in a relationship. This isn't about anything you did wrong. It's just something I've thought about a lot, and I've come to accept that this isn't going to work out. I appreciated our time together, but I think it's best for us to move on. I'm sorry. Okay, and this is more resolute but kind. I've thought a lot about this, and even though I still have feelings for you, I've realized that this relationship can't continue. The circumstances just aren't right, and I don't see that changing. I really appreciate what we shared, and I want you to know this isn't about blame, it's just about being honest with myself and with you. I'm sorry, and I hope you understand. I think all of these are great and clear, and the main issue I see here, though, is I feel that if this is someone that you had known for, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and so on, I feel like there's a little bit more you can say, or you can make it a little bit conversational. So let's take a look there. I've known this. So again, another thing about using ChatGPT is you want to feed it a lot of information to give you exactly what you want. And even if you think that this is a bit much, it's actually really good English practice for you, writing and reading and understanding a lot of the nuances of tone, vocabulary, and so on, grammar. So even if you never actually send one of these messages, I think it's something that you can at least play with, if that makes sense. So let's put some more context here. I've known this person for a year, and I don't want to sound like I'm dismissing them with a short, neutral message. Okay, so let's see what it gives me. So, and I think this is the thing here, respect for your connection. Okay. Here's a revised version that keeps your original intent but offers more emotional presence and gentleness. Okay, so it's actually adding some more stuff, but that's okay. If you're actually sending one of these messages, you're probably going to be writing more anyway. So just something to keep in mind. I've been thinking a lot about us, and this is hard to say because I still have feelings for you. Our connection has meant a lot to me, and I've really valued the time we've spent together over the past year. But I've come to realize that the circumstances around us, where we are in life, what we each need, just aren't right for a relationship right now. This isn't because of anything you did, and it's not about you falling short. It's just something I feel deeply, and I know it wouldn't be fair to either of us to ignore that. I'm really sorry because this hurts. I still care about you, and I wish things could be different, but I think the kindest and most honest thing I can do now is to let go now rather than hold on to something I know can't grow the way it needs to. Oh, that's beautiful, right? Again, sometimes it's not necessary to send something like this. Sometimes the other person won't care anyway. If you're nice, if you're not nice, they say, forget you, I'm moving on. That happens a lot too. I understand. But I think if you know someone for quite a while and nothing bad happened really, because with me and this person, nothing bad happened. I think it was just really bad circumstances, but nothing bad happened between us, I should say. Just the situation was just, I think, not a good situation. I don't think it was a good timing, if that makes sense, of where we were in life. So I think this is great. And I think for me, anyway, this is what I would have wanted to receive from the other person, especially because we had a lot of warm conversations. We had grown closer. I thought we were growing closer. We were sharing a lot of things about our lives, a lot of vulnerabilities. And then, especially when nothing really bad happened between us, there wasn't an argument, there wasn't any drama, anything toxic. When I got a message that felt almost like I was being fired from my job, just very cold and professional, I think that hurt me a lot. And so that's why I wanted to show you this version where you are respecting that connection. You are acknowledging that you had a warm connection, that you meant you had a meaningful relationship, even if it wasn't romantic the entire time. I think this is great. Again, the other person may not care. You also may not care, and that's okay too. If you don't really care that much, I don't think you need to say all these things. But again, this is just for your own education. It's something that you can practice and work on for all kinds of situations. So let's continue. Okay, so would you like a version that includes the hope of staying friends, or would you prefer a clean and respectful break? Now, this is something very interesting as well. So please give me both versions. Okay, so let's see what it says. Again, this is just, even if you're not interested in actually breaking up with anybody, it's still really good learning opportunity. Okay, so version 1 leaves the door open to friendship. I've been sitting with this for a while and I want to be honest with you. Even though I still have feelings for you, I don't think the circumstances are right for a relationship right now. Getting to know you over the past year has meant a lot to me. You've brought kindness, warmth, and real connection into my life, and none of that is lost on me. This decision isn't about anything you did wrong. It's about where I'm at and what I know I can and can't carry forward. I'm really sorry. I care about you, and I'm grateful for what we shared. If it ever feels right for both of us, I'd like to stay in touch in some way, but I understand if that's not something you want or need. Either way, I want the best for you, and I mean that. Okay, now how about another version where you just want a clean break, right? This is difficult to say because I still have feelings for you and I've really valued the past year we've shared. But I've come to realize that the circumstances just aren't right for this relationship to continue. This isn't a reflection on you or anything you did. I care about you deeply. But holding on any longer would mean denying something I know in my gut to be true. This isn't going to work out in the long run, and I can't change that. I'm truly sorry. You've been important to me, and I'll carry that with me even as I step away. I hope you find the kind of connection and peace you deserve. Again, this is, I think, much warmer and emotional. It is not overly emotional, but it's a lot warmer and emotional than the message I received, which again, I think is what prompted me to make this video and last week's episode, is I just felt like it was such a jarring mismatch between how we had usually communicated and then that kind of, I guess you could say, a rejection message. Because it wasn't a breakup, we weren't dating or anything. Now, what I always say to students is using ChatGPT is great, but you got to learn from it. So, I'm a native Japanese speaker. Could you please explain all of these changes, including vocabulary, grammar, and structure? Okay, so here's an example of the grammar and vocabulary improvements. So circumstances for us having a relationship are not good. That was the original one. And now it's changing it to the circumstances are not right for a relationship. So why change it? This sounds a little bit more natural. So circumstances for us having is grammatically correct, but a little bit awkward. Okay. And then it gives me a Japanese equivalent. I don't know how great that is, but um, it looks okay. Again, it's not in. You don't have to agree with all of these changes. That's why I think it's really important if you do use ChatGPT for any kind of message. I think you should change, add, or remove as you see necessary. I think you really should rewrite or revise them yourselves and not just copy and paste what it gives you. Okay. I like this one. I can't change that. Sounds a bit cold. So the revised phrase shows emotional responsibility and consideration for the other person's feelings. I know it wouldn't be fair to ignore that. I think that's great. And I think this is what was missing a lot as well in the message that I received. What we call softening language. I think a lot of second language learners, which I understand because I lived in Japan as well for, some of 6 years, and I studied Japanese for a long time. So I know that softening language is something that's a little bit hard to learn, or maybe we don't really learn it, or we don't use it enough. And so I've been sitting with this for a while. This is hard to say. I care about you. I think this stuff is what was missing in the message that I received. So again, some people may not care if it's there or not there, but for me, I thought, and for a lot of people, I thought it was very important. And when it's not there, the message feels very painful sometimes, or it feels angry, or too direct, or disinterested, or not caring. So softening language is an important part, and I think a lot of languages do this. Maybe all languages do this, where there's a softening language. So this is something you can definitely work on, and I think I might make another podcast episode about this, and I definitely use this in my classrooms as well, but I can do more of this. So softening language, I think, is really great. This is hard to say. I love that. Okay, so it's giving me a lot of suggestions here. Now, you might ask yourself, okay, what is the purpose, right? What is the purpose of this type of message? So let's get into that. Um, Now, just as in, oops, sorry. Now, actually, this person is obsessed with me, and I want to make it clear that there is no chance of a future relationship, but I want to say so respectfully. Okay. So again, you always want to think, what is your purpose, right? What is, and that's how your tone is going to be affected as well. Okay. And you can read this chat later, or you can pause the video. I'll provide the chat in a Google Doc later. Okay. I need to be honest with you, even though I know this may be difficult to hear. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I've come to a clear decision. I don't want to continue this relationship, and I'm not open to restarting it in the future. This isn't about blame or judgment. I genuinely wish you well, but I know this connection is not right for me, and I need to step away completely. I hope you can respect this decision. Please don't reach out anymore. I'm asking for space and closure so we can both move forward. That's actually pretty strong, I think. I mean, it might be necessary, but just an example of how you can change your tone, right? And it's giving me the explanation in Japanese and English as well. That seemed a bit harsh. I don't want the other person to spiral out of control, but I still need to be clear. So let's soften it a little bit. Okay, so this isn't easy to say because I truly care about you and I've appreciated having you in my life. You've meant a lot to me, and I don't say that lightly. But after a lot of reflection, I've realized that I need to let go of this relationship, fully and for good. I say that not to hurt you, but because it's the truth I've come to with clarity and care. This isn't about blame. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that I know deep down that this isn't the right relationship for me, and I need to honor that truth. I also want to be clear that I'm not open to reconnecting in the future. As hard as it is, I believe it's healthiest for both of us to have real distance and move forward separately. I hope over time this helps bring you peace. I'm truly wishing you the best in everything ahead. Okay, so it's giving me more information about that. Now, here's something I usually add. Maybe I'm giving away too much of my personal life, but whenever I have a breakup in a relationship, I usually try to offer clarity at the end because that's something that I would appreciate as well. If someone breaks up with me, I would just like clarity and I would like to know why it's happening. Maybe to clear up any confusion, so that in the future I don't wonder, oh, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Something like that. So what I usually do when I do break up with somebody or end a relationship is I usually say, let me know if you have any questions about what happened, or let me know if you want to talk about it. I'm happy to answer any questions, something like that. Maybe it sounds a little bit weird, but I always feel that when a romantic relationship ends, I think it's really important to have clarity and closure. Unless the person is crazy. If they're crazy, I don't talk to them. I just ignore them, right? Because unfortunately, that's their problem. But for most situations, I like to have a nice conversation as well. So I might add this. I want to be open to having a conversation to help the other person have closure and clarity. Okay, so let's see what that adds. I've really gone on for a long time here, but I hope this video is helpful. Okay, so that said, I know how hard, this is the piece that's added. I know how hard it can be to sit with uncertainty. If it would help you to talk once, to ask questions or get closure, I'm open to having that conversation. And I think that's a beautiful thing to add when you're ending a relationship with someone. Again, if they're not crazy, right? Is that just to have one conversation where you can be honest and clear. And so this way in the future, they don't wonder, I don't wonder. And I think that can help somebody heal faster. Even if it's maybe a little bit painful or awkward, I think it also helps you heal faster so that in your next relationship, maybe you'll feel better, right? Rather than still wondering about the past. So I'm going to add that there. Okay. Now, what if I change it again? What if I change the tone again, right? Or actually, maybe we should kind of start wrapping this up. So here's what we can do. Um, I I feel that when it's these kinds of messages, adding a little bit of detail is also important. So that's why you should always be revising what ChatGPT says, so you can add real examples, real details from your memory, from real life. Um, I'd like to add that because of this relationship, I learned how to appreciate time with my. This is completely imagined, but I learned how to appreciate time with my pets more and take better care of my health. I feel like a better person moving forward, and I want her to know that. I don't know, I'm just kind of adding stuff here. Our time together made a real difference in my life. Because of you, I've learned to slow down, appreciate quiet moments with my pets, and take better care of my health. I honestly feel like I'm a better person moving forward, and I'll always be grateful for that. Oh, that's right. So, I mentioned how to leave the door open if that's your tone that you want, if you want to stay friends. Okay, so let me give you two other situations, and then maybe I should start wrapping it up. Actually, this person is a friend of a friend, so I want to be careful. Okay, so again, your tone and your intention and your purpose and the situation, all of that is going to work together, or it should work together, right? So your message needs to maintain your boundaries, avoid false hope, but also protect everyone's dignity so that mutual friends aren't caught in awkwardness later. Because that does change the situation, right? If it's a friend of somebody that you know, you got to be a little bit more careful, right? Okay, and you can read this in more detail. I'm not going to read everything at this point. I care about handling this in a way that's respectful to both of us, especially given our mutual connections, and I hope we can carry that mutual respect moving forward. All right. explain the changes. And that's what I always want you to do as language learners. I want you to understand why ChatGPT is making these changes to help you in the future with your tone, in addition to vocabulary and grammar and structure and so on. You want to avoid drama with mutual friends. You want to express gratitude and personal growth without implying future contact. And I think that's the important thing here. If you don't intend to contact that person in the future, don't say that you're going to do it. Okay. So you can check this out. You can pause the video or check it out in the chat history transcript. Oh, this is great. It's doing each, like every 1 or 2 sentences, it's explaining it. Great. Okay, now, what if it's a coworker, right? Actually, this is a coworker, and we will see each other every day and occasionally work on a project together. Uh-oh. So, this has actually happened to me once before. Man, what was that? 13 years ago? I was much more immature at that time. I wish I had ChatGPT to help me out. But anyway, so let's see how this changes. That said, I want to be respectful of our working relationship. I hope we can continue collaborating professionally and treat each other with the same consideration we always have. Okay. I'd like to make this warmer and more conversational. There was no drama between us. Okay, let's see. So again, thinking about tone, thinking about warmth, feeling, emotion, and so on. Since we'll still be seeing each other at work, I really do want things to stay positive and professional between us. If you ever want to talk once more to get some closure, I'm open to that. But beyond that, I think it's best we give each other a little space outside of work. Okay, so again, these aren't perfect. You want to change these. The other person may still feel upset, whatever, right? But you try your best to create the right tone, thinking about your intention, your purpose, which is the same thing, the situation, thinking about the other person as well. Apologizing to coworkers, apologizing to friends, apologizing to the teacher of your children, apologizing to other parents at a maybe your children's soccer team, complaining about coworkers, complaining about your neighbors to the landlord, sending a complaint letter to your neighbor. All of these different things, I want you to think about tone. I want you to use ChatGPT to help you with tone. I want you to think about audience, situation, the other person's situation. Start with your own message. Add to it. Whatever ChatGPT gives you, ask for an explanation so that you can learn vocabulary and grammar and phrases and even cultural information. Don't take everything ChatGPT gives you as 100% right. Add, remove, or edit as you see necessary. And I really do recommend just rewriting the whole thing just to give you that practice as well. Okay, so it's a pretty long video. I think I probably still have some unresolved feelings about this romantic situation. But I'm feeling okay about it, but obviously it's a lot I wanted to talk about. But I think it was, like I said, I think it was a really good opportunity to show how tone can really affect the message, whether that's romance, friends, family, workplace, neighbors, whatever. Okay, so check out the chat history history transcript so you can see the entire conversation, and also check out the summary as well. Thanks everybody, and let me know if you have any suggestions for the future.